Going
live on the internet.
Hey, we're live. That
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I had Kentucky Fried Chicken the other day by accident.
No.
It's not even Korean fried chicken.
Or Kentucky Fried Chicken.
It's just KFC.
I like KFC, and that is Korean fried chicken, okay?
Well,
look, okay, so sometimes...
Way better.
Exactly.
Yes, Korean fried chicken is delicious. Yeah. We all love it. But sometimes you need the giant bucket of sadness, okay?
you can still put the Korean fried chicken in a bucket. It's not
the same.
Yeah, definitely not the same.
Look,
it's not sad, apparently.
It's not sad enough.
Korean fried chicken is not sad.
Everybody starts out, you're like, man, I'm going to have some fried chicken. This sounds great. And then you go to KFC and you're like, the first bite is delicious. And then by about the fifth bite, you're like, oh, I'm making a bad mistake.
Same thing for the biscuits.
And by the time you eat the third piece or fourth piece, you're like, oh, I'm going to have to go to the hospital after this.
Oh, my.
And then you have to start drinking water because it's so salty. You're like, I think I'm going to shrivel up like a prune.
It's like sadness layers.
Yeah.
Layers of sadness. I think that's
whenever we want chicken, we go to Popeyes, but we go to KFC just for the sides. We'll go get some of those weird only KFC has them style potatoes and the biscuits.
The runny reconstituted potatoes.
What?
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah.
That's not judgy at all, Will.
I mean, I like
they're the Domino's pizza of potatoes.
Yeah, that's like KFC's kind of the Domino's pizza of fried chicken. I mean, I guess they're both Yum brands. I don't know.
Domino's Pizza is like the largest fast food chain.
Yeah, but it ain't pizza. It's Domino's.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, look, I have a 13-year-old kid who loves Domino's pizza because the taste buds haven't developed or something yet. I eat way more Domino's than I care to admit is not good pizza. It's fine. Sorry, we're not going to get the Domino's sponsorship.
I mean, but it is technically the best-selling chain
doesn't
pizza.
Make it good.
I know, but it doesn't apply to KFC. I don't think KFC is the best-selling fast food.
I guarantee you KFC is the
quality-wise.
chicken place.
Oh, quality-wise?
Like KFC, quality-wise, is the Domino's of chicken places.
Look,
I also think it really depends what location you're at because it is so wildly variable.
That's true. It's like Taco Bell. Yum brands are very location dependent because like a good Taco Bell, pretty good. A bad Taco Bell, real nightmare.
That's the one in Oakland, close to us.
Is the original location for Taco Bell pretty good?
I've never been there.
Where's the original? The
in
very
Pacifica,
first Taco Bell.
No, that's not. That was the one that's in Pacifica was an Arby's or something or Wendy's until like 1995.
I misunderstood.
It was in Downey, California.
Oh, really?
That's the first?
1962.
Yeah. Huh. That's weird.
A tiny walk-up stand founded by Glenn Bell. Taco Bell. I get it. A 19-cent taco and other Mexican-inspired items before closing in 1986.
When I went to Taco Bell, and Taco Bell opened in Bristol, Tennessee, where I grew up for the first time, I was in high school, and I think the menu was $59.69.79 or $59.79.99 for like no, it's mean reset, dude. For like a plain crunchy or soft taco, a supreme, or maybe burritos. I think they only had like 4 or 5 things on the menu. They hadn't realized that they could recombinate all the 5 ingredients that they have into like a million different things. Yeah.
Noise.
Anyway, we're here. This is the obviously the pre-show of the Full Nerd because we're talking about food already.
Food show.
Yeah.
And now we have a couple hours to talk before we can eat. And I don't want anybody making fun of Taco Bell in the chat, okay?
We don't do that here.
M. Heinz, are there good Taco Bells? Yes, there are.
Well, they're...
That was very defensive.
Yeah, come at me. I love Taco Bell.
Adam and I have eaten a good Taco Bell.
I even a bad Taco Bell I eat at often. So,
like in terms of fast food, I think I would rather have Taco Bell than pretty much any other like nationwide fast food chain. I think Popeyes is pretty good.
Yeah, I like In-N-Out for a burger.
In-N-Out's not nationwide.
Oh, true. Yeah.
And also, I think In-N-Out, the burgers are delicious. The fries blow.
Oh, the fries are junk.
100% agree.
Yeah, who are the people who like the fries? Like, I know they exist, and I don't understand them.
My wife Lindsay likes the fries.
Well,
I don't understand them. They're like so mealy. Like they're like grainy, and like the texture is just. Ugh.
I'm going to tell you. One time we were driving to LA or Vegas or something. I think it was Vegas. I think it was a tested. We have a tested video of this. We stopped at the In-N-Out at Kettleman City on 5. Famous In-N-Out, very popular, high traffic. And we literally got the food at the thing and walked to a table and sat down and ate the table seconds after the fries came out of the fryer. And Like the first bite of the fries, pretty good. I was like, oh, these fries are okay. And by the time I got to like the fourth or fifth bite of the fries, they were already garbage. They just cool so fast and get gross. They're bad.
And I don't like thin fries. I like thick fries anyway.
Well,
so even if it was a really good thin fry, it still would be low on my tier list.
Those restaurant cuts, huh?
Thick, like it works out because Lindsay always likes the small thin pieces or the really stubby ones, and then I like the fries that are really long and thick. So we usually get a mix. It's a match made in heaven. Anyway, we're here. It's the pre-show. How are the hamsters looking?
Hamsters running.
Or no, we replaced them with trash pandas. What was it we replaced it with?
Trash pandas.
Yeah, last week. So
I opened up my YouTube page and I have a picture here of Mike Minotti wearing a wig and a dog in a hole.
They made him play a bad game. I don't remember.
That's what they
bad
do
game
over there.
Yeah, they ruin him. Anyway, let's get to the show because we got stuff to talk about.
We got biz.
Why not? Brad's here. Brad's back.
Welcome back, Brad.
Grace us with his presence. And yeah, all right. Are we good?
We good.
We ready?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Here we go. Okay.
Well, I'm gonna crack a beverage here
come
before
on.
you go.
You ruined my intro.
Crack-a-lack.
I was going to do it in one take.
I'm sure you were.
Yeah.
I believe you.
It's showtime. Now, if I do it in 2 takes, I'm going to blame it on you. So here we go.
Roasted.
I got him. Wild card. Okay.
It's our new thing. We're doing roasteds.
In this episode of The Full Nerd, we talk about the 9850X3D reviews, leaks of a 9950X3DV2 maybe incoming, and then also how Windows needs to get better. There we go. See, did one thanks.
I like how you made it a question.
Yeah, that's how you sound better.
That's how you know it's good.
Yeah.
It's like,
and welcome everyone to episode 384. We've been doing this way too long of the Full Nerd Podcast, PCWorld's premier podcast about DIY desktop PC building hardware topics. I am your fill-in host, Adam Patrick Murray, but I'm not alone. I am joined once again by the co-host with the mostest. We got Brad Charkis.
Hey, Adam. Hello, Internet. Hello, everybody.
Are you ready for the superb owl?
I already have Monday off, yes.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Also recovering next Monday is one Elena Yee. What are you going to be doing on the weekend, Elena?
I mean, mostly avoiding all the traffic, probably, because the Super Bowl is actually in our neck of the woods this year.
That is true.
Yeah.
So,
I'm curious.
yeah.
Actually, who out of all of us who lives probably the closest to the stadium is one Will Smith.
that's true, I do. But you know what? I'm angry. You know what grinds my gears?
What?
The last time the Super Bowl was here, Superb Owl, we can't say the thing. The last time it was here, they had this whole like Superb Owl center downtown. Like they had a whole like sterile area that you have to go through security and you could go do festive football related activities.
Okay.
Now it's ticketed. It's like
it's
$40,
ticketed, really?
And they're doing variable pricing.
Oh.
Which variable pricing for tickets?
Just to go in and experience.
Just to go in and experience
Moscone
the
Center.
commerce. Yeah, the quiet majesty.
Welcome to
It's definitely not for the locals, I'll say that. It's for
Welcome to
everyone
San
who came in
Francisco.
from out of town to watch the sports ball.
The
And
owl.
Moscone Center.
I will say, my wife looked to see they were casting dancers for the Bad Bunny halftime show. Like they were casting like not even dancers, just people to stand there and be people.
I was like,
and she was like,
wow.
I can do this. And then she put in for it, and the amount of time
They rejected her.
No. They were like, look, we want to make this abundantly clear. If you get in, if we choose you for this, you are going to stage offsite. We're going to bus you in like 10 minutes before the halftime show starts. And then the moment halftime ends, you're going to be corralled back out to the buses. So you're not going to get to watch the game at all.
Why?
And she was like, well, I'm not interested. I'm out.
Was she interested to watch the game anyway?
I mean, ads.
Okay.
Like this is nobody wants to watch the Patriots win. Sorry, Brad.
Wow, Brad
Nobody.
he's gonna drop off this call. Anyway, who's a big Patriots fan is one Willis Lai controlling the verticals and
That's
horizontals, right?
Am I?
Are you?
I guess
No?
so.
he is
At this point,
now.
I am now, I guess.
There you go.
Who's playing again?
Yeah, the Patriots and somebody else. Seahawks. Yeah, there you go.
Seahawks.
It's a good name. It's
but
a
we like
hawk,
Seattle.
a hawk that loves the sea.
It's an East Coast, West Coast thing, you know?
Yeah, there we go. Boom. I love it. Speaking of the ultimate East Coast, West Coast battle, we got AMD versus Intel. I'm just kidding. I don't know where that's going.
They're all based here.
But before we get to that, before we get to the cool topics like CPUs and Windows 11 trust issues, I have the latest episode of EGM, Electronic Gaming Monthly.
It's called an issue.
Yeah. Did I say episode?
Episodes are like TV shows or podcasts. You dweeb.
Yes. This episode's from July 2000.
I hate you.
It's a written episode. It's crazy. Anyway, there's an ad in the back for, what is this? Oh, no, here we go. Chips and Bits Inc. This is a department store in Rochester, Vermont.
What year was this?
2000.
So that's
July
that's
2000.
That's a
26 years ago.
hey man, we have a screwdriver shop and we're gonna buy an ad in the back of the magazine and sell some stuff.
Don't do the math.
I know. Yeah, right? It's like international. There's an international line that you can call. But yeah, it's based in Vermont. Anyway, it's mostly games. And then I did notice a little section under computer hardware. I'm gonna quiz you.
3?
Yes, they got a 3DFX Voodoo 3 3500. What do you think was the price for that?
$200.
250.
Yeah.
250. What about a 3DFX Voodoo 4 4500?
That was a garbage card, but it was probably 3.
That was 180.
Yeah, garbage
What about
card.
Diamond Monster MX 300?
That's a sound card. That was $200.
Nope, 85.
85?
Yep.
Really? That was cheap.
Everglide Large Attack Pad.
That's a mouse pad. That's like
how much was a mouse pad? What?
$30?
15.
15.
Look at
Okay.
that. A couple more here. Fortissimo sound card. I don't
Is
know.
that a Sound Blaster or is that a?
It
That's
just says
a,
Fortissimo.
I don't know what that one is.
It's $50.
$50. Yeah.
This is the most expensive item on the list here. Spoilers. Maxer Gamer 3D Profit. What's a Maxer?
MAXXER?
Just one X.
MAXER?
Maxer
3D
Gamer.
Profit? That's probably a Voodoo 2. No, Voodoo 2 would have been old by then. That you know what? That may be a GeForce card actually.
No, it's $290.
Maxer.
Also, then right next to it is a Maxi Gamer, MAXI Gamer Cougar TNT2. For
It's a
$120.
Hercules. It's a Hercules card.
Hercules.
And I was just looking up the conversion rates for giggles. $200 in 2000 is worth $376 today.
Yeah.
Oh, you beat me to it. I was exactly doing the same thing.
So that Maxer card, that was a Hercules Maxi Gamer is what the other name was for it. And it was an NV10.
Oh, you know what?
That was a GeForce 256 DDR.
Actually, you know what?
Sorry, SDR.
Maybe because there is a Maxi Gamer right next to it, the TNT2. I wonder if that's a typo. So, but yeah, maybe it's Maxi Gamer. It's supposed to be Maxi Gamer, but they called it Maxer
They might
Gamer.
not have enough room.
Yeah.
I mean, look, that's a lot of text for somebody to copy edit. It is real small.
Anyway, yeah, fun times, and then Nintendo 64 games that are like $70. You know,
They were expensive.
Yeah.
You needed a 200-watt PSU for that GeForce SDR card.
is that a lot for? Is that AGP?
That,
is that what those?
No, yeah, that would have been AGP.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Old times. Look at that.
Yeah.
Hey, we didn't know how good we had back then, huh? Were you reviewing GPUs back then?
That was the GeForce SDR and DDRs were the first cards I reviewed for Maximum PC. I did. I feel like at ours I did some video card reviews before that, but like the GeForce launch was the first one that we did like a big video card blowout for, and we were doing things like running memory benchmarks to figure out what the memory clocks were because we didn't have tools to let us look at the memory clocks.
Yeah, I was
back
like,
then.
what was there
Yeah.
benchmarks back then?
Yeah, there were benchmarks.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, well, and you do things back then. You would do things like run them at the highest resolution you could and the lowest resolution you could. So it was like 1024 by 768 or 640 by 480.
Oh, you mean 10 by 7?
Yeah, 10 by 7 or 6 by 4. Yeah,
Wait, why would you do the lowest resolution?
to max out memory bandwidth.
Because
Because you literally they didn't tell you what the memory clocks were, so you had to infer them based on the memory fill rate that you could.
Were they
deduce
trying to
from
hide
the-
it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they didn't think anybody cared.
Oh.
They didn't realize that weirdos cared.
Well, look at what they got them. Bigger bar better is what we say around here, and when we're talking about the bigger bar better, then this comes to mind. Boom, right in front of me.
Wow, it just fell over.
Sitting right in front of me is the Ryzen 7 9850X3D. Let's move over to that subject. We reviewed it. I did a quick little video that was literally 90 seconds because spoilers, there wasn't a ton to talk about. Elena did a nice article on the website. I watched a couple other videos on YouTube, but then was quickly like, oh, okay, it is what it is. And you know what? I had the best way I described it. I think Elena described it a good way too. But my description of it was: imagine a line of 9800 X3Ds, just like on the manufacturing line, and somebody's sitting there being like, "Ooh, that's a really good one. Let's pull this off. Put it over the side. Ooh, there's another really good one. Let's pull this off." And then they just stamp it with 9850 X3D.
You think somebody's like scratching out the 0?
Yeah. They're like, hey, you know what? This is the best 9800 X3D you can get. We're going to make it 50 better. So bigger bar better. So, yeah. Elena, how did you describe it?
I think I actually borrowed some of your phrasing, which was like, this is basic, like a better binned 9800 X3D.
Never been better.
What's funny is I think a couple weeks ago, last time I was on here, I actually made an off-the-cuff reference to the old Silicon Lottery website. You used to, what they would do is manually test all these things and bin them, and then you could pay huge amounts of money to get ones that are slightly faster. So to be honest, to pay $20 more for 400 megahertz better chip in 2026, that seems like a lot better than what it used to be.
I mean, and the other thing too, like, I think that it was definitely a boring benchmarking session. If you want to go look at the numbers, there's a link to both my video and Elena's article in the description. If you want to look at the numbers, I mean, it is what it is. It's 400 more megahertz, right? Like, nothing else has changed about it. But the great thing is that the 9800 X3D is like the best gaming CPU out there.
Not anymore. It's garbage.
Not anymore.
Waste of sand.
Yeah. Well, but yeah,
I hate myself sometimes, just to be clear.
You?
Yeah. Yeah.
You ruined it. What was I even? I don't even know what I was going to talk about.
I broke you.
Yeah, you broke me.
You were going to say the 9800 X3D was the best CPU out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, which it's good. Like, I think that's the hard part, is that like part of it was just like, oh, okay, well, it's just a better version of something that was already the best. Like, you're just promising you're getting the best one.
The 9800 X3D tie.
Yeah, there we go. That's what they should have done. Boom.
Look, if we were writing a Maximum PC article about this, the deck that I would put on it is never been better. BIN.
Dang.
Oh, Dang. Nice. Yeah. Well done, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's shut down the podcast. We're gonna restart with that title. Never been better.
Should have thought of that. Damn.
It's I mean, but like, it's good that they're doing it. I mean, I like that they're doing it. It's definitely not an upgrade for people who have 9800 X3Ds. It's like, this feels like if you bought a cheap Zen 5 CPU at the start of the era and you're building you want to do an upgrade now, get a nice upgrade. Like, going from a 7600 or something like that to this is a big jump, right?
Well, and also the idea, at least when I talked to AMD when they announced it at CES, essentially I was like, hey, are you going to keep around the 9800 X3D? Is this replacing it? Because I could have seen that happen too.
That would make sense.
And they were like, no, both are going to be in the channel.
We can't make that many of these. We got to scrape the top 5% off of the 9800 X3D pile. Yeah.
So, and I guess I haven't checked prices as of right now. I'm sorry, prices of the 9800 X3D.
Like real world retail prices.
Yeah, because right now MSRP is like, oh, it's $20 more. You're getting 400 more megahertz.
Like, so right now on Newegg it's like $467.
Okay.
So it's still maybe a 30-ish dollar difference. So not that big of a delta.
I did the math. Like, the benchmarks were mostly either within margin of error up to, I think the highest one I had was like 6.5% or something in a single core workload kind of thing.
Yeah, it wasn't large.
Yeah, so like if you take around, maybe like a 3 or 4% increase average kind of thing, it lines up with the $20 increase. It's around I did the math at some point and it looked like, oh, this is also, you're getting 3% better for 3% more price. And
like, I think in a world where we didn't have the memory pricing explosion, like this is just hey, there's a clock bump, so you have another option at the high end if you want when you're building a new machine. But when RAM costs $1 bazillion for 32 gigs, I feel like that's probably stifling the new builds, and it kind of puts a damper on the whole thing, right?
Well, that's kind of what I talked about in my article a little bit more, I think, which was this is the best gaming chip you can get, but unfortunately that's not good enough. That was my strapline, right? Because the problem is that it's living in this broader ecosystem. So if the 9800X3D starts to go on sale for some reason, if you can get a better bundle deal, and that happens to be a different AMD chip, or it's even a Team Blue bundle, then you're likely going to go with that because of RAM pricing.
Yeah.
Well,
I honestly think a lot of people don't do one gen upgrades. So I don't know how many people will even be going from something like a 7000 series part to a 9000 series part right now. So again, like it's unfortunate because I think this is a good chip. They've managed to squeak out a little bit more, and as you said, the price difference is roughly equivalent to the amount of performance you're getting. So it's not like you're overpaying for just a little bit. But is it really justified in general? Who knows? Like it's really going to see, like really, to me, it's just really based on what the market ends up looking like across the board.
Speaking of bundles, there was this bundle, I think this is the same one that I saw over the weekend as well at Micro Center. They have a bundle that has the 9850X3D, an Asus X870P Prime motherboard. It looks like a full ATX motherboard. And Crucial, the late great Crucial, 32 gigs of DDR5 6000. Let's see what the latency is.
One stick or two?
Two sticks. So 216.
Oh, two DIMMs.
Yeah, two DIMM, and then the timing is CL36. So
and it's 6,000.
And 6,000. Yeah,
that's pretty good.
For $700. It's only pickup only, but it is in stock. And I was like, I mean,
I've seen
in
worse.
today's
Getting
economy,
the motherboard for free.
Yeah, in today's economy, that's not bad. Like
it's 870, the high end chipset.
There is one. There's an E that's a higher, but yes, like I think the X870 versus X870
Yeah, that's pretty
is
decent.
like some lanes, Like I was just like, wow, I didn't expect to see that nice of a bundle already. So I don't know what that means, but
I've been seeing occasional good bundles. Like Newegg had a couple. One that I know for sure that stands out in memory in the last few weeks. Again, like two DIMMs, reputable RAM company, decent speed. And my guess is that they are basically holding on to the last of the stock that they had when they purchased it at a lower rate, right? Like they were able to get it at a lower rate. And they're now basically holding on to that to either force or encourage people to buy other products with it. So that way they can kind of move that along, just because they probably are seeing a slowdown in purchases for like individual components. That's my like off the cuff guess. So I don't know how long even these bundles will last. So my recommendation is that if you see a really good bundle and you're in the market to upgrade, go ahead and grab that.
Well, I'm also seeing a 7600 X3D, so the 6-core part with a B850, so the lower end chipset, Asus tough gaming Wi-Fi, whatever. One 16 gig DIMM of G-Skill Flare X, and it's $450. Even then, that's
not terrible.
That's not terrible. Yeah.
So I'm seeing on Amazon 32 gigs of RAM, 6000 MT with decent timings in the $440 to $600 range. So $699.
That's a great price for that.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that bundle feels hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't love the bundles that only have a single DIMM included.
No.
I actually think though that it might be worth doing testing. Obviously I'm volunteering somebody else for this to see just how much dual channel affects things now. Right?
Look,
because that was the prevailing wisdom for the longest time. Like you need dual channel RAM, otherwise you're getting a big performance hit. It was kind of the vibe. And now I'm wondering, just with how much progression we've seen since we last really discussed this as a, group, as a community, if it really holds up the same, because the context, the circumstances now kind of demand knowing whether or not it really is that big of a difference, right?
This is. See, I think we need to do the RAM crimes video. Like the test the 4 gig system, test the 8 gig system, test the 16 gig system, test single channel versus dual, test one of those weird adapters you can jam some mixed kits. One of those weird adapters you can jam laptop memory into a desktop PC. Like let's do it. I
would love to watch that video.
Yeah, maybe it's just a live stream where we just do bad things all day and then cut it into clips.
I like that. Yeah. Bad things all day. Bad testing. Yeah. Just watch us do bad testing.
Testing crimes.
Testing crimes.
Yeah.
One thing that's cool and encouraging for me seeing the 9850X3D launch is that it even exists. Because for a while, like the 5800X3D had shortages because the technology was so new and novel, they were having troubles keeping it, going, fabricated. And with this new generation, they switched to the new under die memory, I believe it is, swapping from on top. And that's part of the reason they're able to crank it higher. And for them to be competent enough to have bin chips at the end, like we've never saw a 7850X3D, I don't believe. So it's cool that they're getting the technology under their belt hard enough to be able to do this, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
Also makes me wonder if they're seeing how hard they can push it for maybe future launches. I don't know. Maybe. But maybe like a theoretical 9950X3DV2.
What?
Maybe.
What?
Oh, who knows? So we're moving over to the next one.
Just powering through the topics today.
Just powering through it. I mean, listen, there wasn't much to talk about. So, it is what it is. So this is an interesting one. There's definitely been murmurings and rumors of a 9950X3D that had 2 CCDs, which both had Vcache on it.
People have said that they wanted this since the dawn of the dual CD Vcache chips.
Oh, yeah.
AMD came out at the start of this generation, was like, yo, we could do that, but it's not going to do anything for performance. And then the 9950X3D came out and it had all the same stuttering problems and like cache thread stalls and all the weird stuff that the previous generation had. And now this has happened.
Well, I mean, this is a weird one because this isn't a leak. I mean, who knows? This could be a joke. Maybe they're doing it as a joke.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, what happened was that Asus China had a video where they were doing some overclocking, something like that, and then when they cut to the full screen of the desktop, there was a folder right there on the desktop, right next to a shortcut to Shadow the Tomb Raider and OBS Studio and MSI Afterburner. There's a folder that said 9950X3DV2 right on it. So
probably it's the second run of the benchmarks.
Something.
It's the second.
Actually,
it's literally the results from the second pass of the benchmarks.
I mean, because there is a
9950X3D. Yep. This is the stupidest story of all time.
Yeah. Well, but
if you look underneath it, it also has a 9850X3D or 9800X3D. It seems like there were different folders for each one.
Yeah, different folders.
Very well might be right, Will.
Well, but listen, the headline I'm reading
final for real this time. Doc.
Well, no, because I'm reading this headline. I'm gonna throw. I'm sorry, the guru of 3D, guru3d.com. The headline says Asus video leak shows not Ryzen 9 9950X3D V2 being tested. And then there was another article that said
that's a blatantly wrong sentence.
I think it was video cards maybe that. Yeah, it was video cards. Here's the headline. Asus confirms dual 3D Vcache Ryzen 9 during testing.
I think those are a bit strong. As the person who leads editorial at PCWorld, I wouldn't go that definitive. But I will say that leading up to the holidays, there were a lot of rumors that this, version 2 version of this was coming. And at CES, I heard some whispers from folks saying, we were kind of expecting to see that around here. So, I mean, there's a lot of smoke around this.
But and the thing that Will had alluded to earlier, since the beginning, when the 5800X3D got announced, everybody lost their mind, and they were like, "Oh, we need a 5950X3D with." I mean, well, they wanted one anyway, which never came.
Yeah,
and then when the 7000 came out and did have one Vcache, I remember we were prepping because that was announced at CES, right? I think it was CES
last year. The 9950.
No. The 7950X3D was the first one to have one, and I remember leading up to it, like that was like not even an option in our head. We just thought like they would do two of them, and then when they announced it that way, people lost their mind. They got pissed. They were like, AMD was like, dude, you get the best of both worlds. This is awesome.
It's a fast one and a cashy one.
Yeah, you get to pick. It's the best of both worlds kind of thing is how they marketed it.
That's the problem.
Yeah, but and
then the world learned the name Process Lasso.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Gordon did a whole series of stuff about this, yeah. We're not going to go down that thing, but
yeah.
Since then, AMD has always been like, hey, listen, we have tested having 2 CCDs with Vcache, and it's not what you think it is.
You're saying they made those chips?
I mean, I'm sure they've tested it, 9 ways from Sunday.
Exist.
Yeah. But yeah, they were like, listen, like people are screaming for it, but they don't understand. They don't want it.
It's
like
not
that
going to
doesn't
do
help.
anything. It's just going to be expensive and not any better.
Yeah, because when you have the die-to-die chatter, I should say the interconnect,
the latency,
the glue that holds the dies together,
Infinity
fabric,
yeah,
that is going to be slower.
Well,
when they need to use both, which is why they devised that system that used game mode, Windows game mode, to say, oh, is this a game? Okay, throw it on the Vcache part, or you could manually switch it. I mean, motherboards have instituted game mode as well, where you actually turn off the other CCD. Anyway, there's like from the beginning, AMD's been like, hey, you don't want this. You might think you want it, but it's not. You're not going to.
Don't tell me what I want, Dad.
Yeah. So, yeah, Brad, do people want this?
I think people think they want this. I kind of agree with AMD here. I have a feeling cause look at the price of a 9800X versus a 9800X3D, and then double that, because that's what it'll cost to be more for one of these chips. It'll be so expensive, and I'd trust AMD if they say I've tested it and we tested it and it's not there, but people do want it.
Well, you know what I told them? I was like, you know what? You should just release it anyway. Like, if people think they want it, go ahead and release it and be like, hey, well, yeah, but you said you wanted it, and guess what?
Here's the thing. You know what people... Oh, go ahead, Elena.
I was going to say, I don't think they have the money for that. Or I don't think they want to allocate the money to that.
Yeah.
Well, but more than that, they don't want to have a product come out and get crappy reviews and everybody slag on them.
And have it be the most expensive CPU.
And have it be their flagship CPU. So, like you think... Like, I don't often... This is one of those places, like, if a vendor hands me a piece of hardware and say, hey, this is the best one on the market, you should trust us, I'm going to test it and decide if it's the best one on the market myself. If a vendor says, hey, we're not making this because it's not any good, I tend to trust them, because if it was good, they would make it and sell it at a high premium. And like, if they're doing a V2, I have to imagine they're doing something different, right? Like, if the V2 is if the smoke is there's a new version of the 9950X3D 9850X3D coming. And there's been a lot, like Brad said, there's been a lot of smoke around this.
Oh, yeah.
So if there's a fire, I have to imagine it's not a dual 3D Vcache part, right? It has to be something different.
I mean, well, but the thing that people want are more cores, right? They're like, hey, as of right now, you can only
16
get...
cores is for babies.
Well, no, I mean, you can only get one 8-core cache, or 16-core, 8-core 16-thread cache on either a 9850X3D or even a 9950X3D. You still only get 8 cores. So... Like, there has been rumors that maybe whatever the next Zen version is, they're able to increase the core count on a single CCD. I could see that.
What if they put a third CCD?
Oh.
Yeah.
And this one's low power?
No, just full power.
Full power.
30.
Wow.
It's like 4 little CCDs up there. It's 32 cores instead of 16.
Now you're getting crazy.
So many.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, though. I think what people are forgetting is that engineers fundamentally love to do weird things. Right? Like, they like to experiment. They like to see what's possible. They like to bend and break like known things out there. So I also am inclined to believe that they're saying, like, this is not feasible for us to do. They probably tried it and decided that for whatever reasons, either financial, performance, probably a combination of those things, it was not something that they wanted to put their efforts towards. I think personally, I am wondering, it probably is too soon for it, but wasn't there something a few weeks ago where they were talking about L2 cache Like, I think it'd be really interesting if they came out with a chip that basically was experimenting with something like that.
Like,
so we're not necessarily talking about two things, but more like they're trying to soup up the whole like lot of it, what they're giving to us.
Like it's a 9950X3DV2, and it's still only one CCD with cache, but you get even more cache.
Yeah, you want some cash with your cash?
Yeah, get some extra cache. Well, yeah, then it's like, oh, okay. It also makes me think of in this timeline where we're having RAM issues. One of the things in the 9850X3D review guide was like, hey, listen, you can theoretically run with cheaper, lower speed DRAM because you have the benefit of having that cache on die that helps it. So if they could lean more into that alleviates some of that stress of having to have really nice RAM with your CPU. In theory,
yes. I will say I actually did a price check when I was writing about it, and there's actually not a material difference in price right now between like 4,800 versus 6,000. I mean, if things get really dire in the future, maybe, but right now it's one of those features that you buy. It's like you buy in the anticipation you could need that at your back later on, but I wouldn't say you should buy a chip like that right now thinking that it's actually going to save you money.
Or maybe in the future, all of the higher end speeds go to the data center and they just give us the chud speeds.
Oh gosh, why would you even put that into the universe?
I'm just saying,
So
right.
I have a modest proposal for what a V2 could look like.
Okay. What, a third CCD?
No, that's stupid. Nobody would do that. Nobody wants three CCDs. But something that is kind of underwhelming on the AMD platform, and we like it was great early on, and we're seeing the limits of it these days as the kind of multi CCD. Like one of the reasons I feel like Intel has stuck with most of their compute on one die is so that the chipped core-to-core communication can be really fast through L2 or L3, right? And AMD doesn't have that. They have to go across the Infinity Fabric to toss threads from a core to a core. I wonder if they're looking at how to juice the Infinity clock speed, the Infinity Fabric clocks, because there was a Chips and Cheese article from I think last year. Was it last year?
The end of 2024.
Yeah, end of 2020. Well, oh wow, yeah. So last year.
Wow.
Where George, where they tested out some slightly boosted clock speeds for the Fabric Infinity, and for folks who know, the Infinity Fabric is the kind of bus that the CCDs talk to the I/O die and each other across, and like compared to the Foveros stuff that Intel has going, which is like variable bandwidth based on whether you're on Clearwater Forest or Panther Lake or one of the other platforms, like Lunar Lake or whatever. This is just a F clock speed that you can set in the BIOS, and you can crank it up and it's tied to the memory bus in some meaningful and important way. I wonder if they're testing, hey, we're going to juice the Infinity Fabric clocks and speed to see if that helps us with the stalling, the thread stalling on the dual CCD designs.
I mean,
I would love that.
If I remember correctly, the other problem with it too, though, is that if you have one CCD that has cache and one that doesn't, even if the interconnect was still fast,
the thread scheduler still has to know where to put stuff on the right threads.
Well, and then if you have two CCDs, one with cache, one without, you could have theoretically, if I remember correctly, a core on one CCD try to access the cache on another CCD, and that's where the issue would happen.
So there, and the end result for users is that you have a CPU that sometimes things work exactly as you'd expect and it's really fast, and then sometimes you launch a game and it's like it runs for 3 seconds and then pauses for a half second and runs for 3 seconds and pauses for a half second, and it feels real bad, and it's like it changes on a launch by launch basis, which is really maddening. At least
unless you use tools.
Unless you use tools to turn off cores when you're
and to be fair, some people do swear by Project Lasso or
turning on the game mode in the BIOS.
I don't know. I feel like I haven't. I mean, has anybody here heard of people using that game mode in the BIOS where you literally...
I had to for Helldivers.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it was the only way I could get it to work. The Lasso thing Process Lasso didn't work.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, which theoretically, once again, maybe also points to if they're trying to see how much they can get out of Infinity Fabric clocks, maybe that's also pointing to a potential whatever the next Zen is, maybe the benefit is
that would be
higher,
a great place to experiment.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
I like it. I think you might be onto something, Will. I think that is more plausible than 2 CCDs with 2 separate cache setups on them.
I like the bigger L2 cache thought, but that feels like a Zen 6 thing to me.
Well, I did put the link to the Chips and Cheese article in there. So, like, real quick, what were some of the gains that they saw with?
So
the 9950X?
It wasn't enormous. I mean, they were running on a DDR5 8000, which written in 2024. I think Brad pulled this out. They described it as expensive, and then the price was like $260.
Wait, an 8000 on
48
AMD?
gigs of DDR5 8000.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so they were overclocking the RAM and the Infinity Fabric.
So I think they had to overclock the Infinity Fabric to get the RAM to that speed.
Oh.
Was the feeling I have. I don't think they explicitly say that.
Okay, interesting.
But they saw latency drops and I don't think they tested. Yeah, so here's the latency test with, I don't know what BW threads is. Oh, bandwidth threads on CCD1. It's worth reading the whole article. I'm not going to summarize, but it's like this is the gap that they have to fill. I think as they move to the next generation, this is one of their pain points, especially if they're going to keep doing multi CCD designs. Like if they're going to move to a monolithic compute CCD, then it's a different situation. But if they're going to keep doing multi CCD packages to get their core numbers up, then they have to work this out.
Or
one cool thing that Chips and Cheese article does show is that on DDR4 based AM4 based systems, like this, the CPUs and the RAM and everything itself was kind of holding back the potential of Infinity Fabric, but on these newer DDR5 higher clock systems, there is more room for them to flex.
Yeah.
So that's one key takeaway to come from that.
Interesting. And yeah, Davina asked the question. So if you're doing a simple gaming build, I don't know what simple means, but you're probably just gaming, stick to a single CCD.
I think so.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, I think as long as the consoles are shipping eight core CPUs, the number of games that are going to require that won't run on an 8-core CPU is nil.
Well, and that's the weird thing too, is that, and I think it broke our brain back in the day when the 9800, and even to a certain extent the 7800X3D and the 5800X3D, when those came out, is like usually you look at the stack and you're like, what's the most expensive one? Okay, that's going to be the fastest. And now it's like, oh no, actually, if you're just gaming, a 9800X or 9850X3D now, whatever, is not the most expensive one on the stack, but it is actually the best one just for pure gaming. So that does feel a little weird in your mind, because that's just not usually how it works in the past. But also, like I still think that the original marketing holds true for the dual core stuff. One CCD with cache, one without. It's the best of both worlds, so you still have 16 core, 32 thread for work applications. But then when you are done with work for the day and you just want a game, then theoretically you just use the Vcache CCD and use it for gaming.
I mean, if you could easily turn off the non-Vcache CCD without having to reboot the machine, it would be a lot more compelling. I think the process lasso thing is underwhelming. It's interesting because one of the things they test here is these high bandwidth load tests alternating between one CCD and the other, like moving the processes back and forth between them. And they show how the latency goes up the more cores you have active. And it goes from basically like 100 nanoseconds to 800 nanoseconds based on like really quickly. But by the time you have like 6 or 8 cores loaded, and so it's like, just to be clear, this is a worst case workload, but it happens in practice all the time because of the thread scheduler on both Windows and Linux, frankly, is still like, it's still not great. There's still room for improvement on that technology.
Well, and that's the other thing. Is this actually an AMD thing? How much do they need to fix it versus how much does scheduling needs to get fixed?
Seems like an everybody problem
in Windows.
Because Intel has similar issues. I'm convinced that this is why Intel isn't shipping. I mean, it'd be interesting when they announce Nova Lake, when we see what the structure on those CPUs is like, whether they're doing multi CCD dies where they have multiple compute dies for the big giant desktop CPUs.
Yeah, I don't know.
I bet they won't, even with Foveros. Because like one of the things that I was surprised at from that Intel Tech Day is I didn't understand that the Foveros density on the wires, because it's basically like a big giant nest of wires with a tiny pitch array of dots that they solder the chiplets on. And the Clearwater Forest stuff is like a 10x or 15x increase in density of those dots of those wires than say Panther Lake with the consumer parts. So they're doing that so they don't have this delay and they don't have this thing because they have multiple compute CCDs. I don't think they're going to go to that cost on packaging for the Intel CPUs, for the consumer CPUs.
Yeah.
Damn, you're spitting out some smart stuff today, Will.
Look, man, I've been reading a lot about CPUs since I started working here 2 years ago. It's been I used to have Gordon to lean on for this stuff, and when I had a stupid question, I'd ask him, and now I just have to read 3,000 articles to figure it out.
Thanks, George from Chips and Cheese. Yeah.
If AMD, by the way, ever wanted to prove to the world that a 2-core version of these don't work out, you just want to whip up a special PCWorld edition engineering example, you can send it to us and we'll test it.
Just bring it over
on the podcast.
You can bring it over. We'll test it. Yeah.
We already got the giant Ryzen chip. We had that out back. So.
Oh yeah. The big Threadripper. Yeah. So come show it off.
And like for real, shout out to Chips and Cheese. The stuff they're doing analysis on stuff like this on consumer parts and like enterprise and all the whole stack, but like most folks don't do this kind of deep benchmark analysis on consumer parts. It's really useful. So check it out.
That stuff, like, it's not often I feel dumb reading that stuff. Sometimes I feel dumb. It's well worth reading.
It's often like I open the article and I read like 3 paragraphs and then I go look some stuff up and then I come back and read 3 more paragraphs and I go look some stuff up.
Have you met George? Did you get a chance to meet George?
I have.
Okay, yeah. Anytime I meet George, and he's an awesome human being, but yeah, like I'm just like, I'm sorry, I can't keep up with what you're talking about. Like
he's a very smart guy.
So anyway, confirmed. It's confirmed. Asus confirmed it. Boom, got him. Okay, so let's move over to Windows.
Wait.
No.
What do we think the odds of them actually naming this thing V2 are if it comes out?
No.
They would have to name it the 9900, or they couldn't do that.
They can't. It'd have to be like the 9970.
Yeah.
No, but that's not enough of a bump. I think they double 9950. So what's 9950 times 2? I'm not good at math.
Or could they do this like the 8086? Is there an important number for AMD that's in the 9 range? Like you remember how Intel had that? It was what, a 90? Was that 9000 that they just called the 8086 for some reason?
Yeah.
I think they call it the 19900. So that's 9950 times 2. 19900 X3D.
No,
yeah,
they're not going to do a whole
shoot for
number.
the moon.
No.
Shoot for the moon.
That's ludicrous.
Over 9,000.
I think it's 99.99.
It's over 9,000.
I think it's 99.99. Unless that's unlucky.
I thought I saw a joke in our YouTube chat where somebody said it would be the X6D or something like that.
Oh. It's going into the 6th dimension? What is the 6th dimension? I don't even know what the 5th dimension was.
There's 3 dimensions, and then if you map a 3-dimensional space onto a line, that's the 4th dimension. And then a 3-dimensional space onto a plane is a 5th dimension.
5th dimension, okay.
So 6th dimension is a hypercube, basically.
Perfect. It's it's like the Borg.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? A cube?
No. That's just a 3-dimensional cube.
Confirmed.
Yeah, Borg confirmed.
Yeah.
Imagine now I'm just thinking of all the little Borg running around an X3D part, just being like, oh hey, let's go from core to core.
I still think they messed up by not doing a Goku tie-in and doing the over 9,000.
Over 9,000.
Yeah.
There's still time.
I think the ship is. I think we're past.
What if it's the 9XXX3D?
No, that sounds like it's porn.
I was thinking, I hope it's like the old gamer tags: X3D, Ryzen 90,
X_X,
X3D again,
XX underscore Ryzen 9950X3D underscore XX.
Exactly right.
Have fun with it.
What if it's like by Lunar New Year and it's 9999X90?
Oh, all the 9s.
Oh, it's just or it's like 9888
There you go.
X3D.
There you go. Good.
No, because then that's lower in the stack.
What if it's the Y3D? Y3D?
X. Does it
Because
need to be
they
an
can.
X? Oh, okay. All right. Now we're going to talk about
99.
Windows Trust.
Wow.
Now
988.
we're moving to Windows Trust.
Oh, it's my favorite. I love Windows.
So there was a report that we thought we saw. We didn't end up finding it, did we?
I think it's this.
It was on The Verge.
Yeah, I think it's a reference to The Verge article is what I saw.
Well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, The Verge published an article, which I linked down in the description. The headline from one Tom Warren is Microsoft is working to rebuild trust in Windows. Good article.
Before you go on to synopsize this, I just want to say we didn't publish this info because we weren't comfortable with the sourcing levels that we got on it, but we can corroborate that we're hearing a lot of this stuff too. So just throwing that out there before you go on.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely feels like one of those things of like, oh no, guess what? People aren't liking what we're doing with Windows. Well, actually, I should step back. I bet they're in a weird spot because on one hand, they just celebrated what was it? Windows 11 hitting 1 billion
users,
and the yeah.
For audio listeners, both Will and Brad simultaneously did the Austin Powers.
That's Dr. Evil. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's from the general franchise. It's from the franchise. I'm referring to the franchise, not the character.
Okay.
$1 billion.
So anyway, yeah, it came out that because it was an earnings call, right? That they hit 1 billion users. I guess Windows 11 adoption has been the fastest that they've seen in any Windows.
Faster than any other thing ever, basically.
So,
faster than microwave ovens.
Can't imagine how sunsetting a previous version of Windows might hasten that.
Either way, I bet they're in a weird spot because I bet there's people who's like, no, Windows 11 is awesome. Look, we just hit 1 billion, where it's the fastest installed CPU or operating system that we've ever had. That's awesome. And then on the other side, there's people like being like, hey, we got people banging down the door. They're angry. Like, people aren't liking, this Linux stuff. A lot of people are talking about Linux. We should do something about this. And they're like, no, look at these numbers. Look at the numbers. They're good. So I bet there's like conflicting camps in there about the way it's going. And then, of course, the guy at the top, Satya Nadella, talking about how Windows is going to be an AI agent.
And also stop being mean. Stop calling it slop. You're being mean. Yeah. It's bad for the market.
Don't hurt the AI's feelings.
Wait, it's almost like you have an opinion on this so much that you put it printed onto a shirt, Will.
I don't know what you're talking about, Elena.
Microsoft.content.town.
Straightens up.
Yeah, so okay. They came out, by the way, after this story broke, their stock took a pretty enormous dive. Like, it's one of those ones where it goes up for like 6 months and then it just is like a cliff down on the other side.
And you think it's attributed to this?
I don't know.
I mean, either way,
the earnings call too.
I think it's pretty obvious that trust in Windows is at an all-time low. Right?
At least in our communities, it absolutely is. Yeah. So it seems like it's based on the dip hit on the earnings result. I think the earnings. Verge article is probably secondary.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they came out and said, hey, we hear consistently from consumers that improving system performance, that we hear pain points from the consumers, and we're going to address them by improving system performance, reliability, and the overall experience of Windows. And this was like 3 days after they released the patch Tuesday that prevented people from turning off their computer.
Which
a new low.
That was a whole other
Which just
thing.
Spread to Windows 10 computers as well after they tried pushing out a fix.
Great.
Yeah.
We actually have an article on PCWorld.com that if you got hit with that, the's a way to get around it.
Is it just you pull the plug from the ground, go buy a Mac?
Linux.
Okay, Linux. Even better.
Yeah. Wipe and reset.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think there's a lot of things for this. The feeling I'm at, I guess I feel so disenfranchised with it. But like I feel like this is the same.
You run a Linux podcast.
I know, right?
Probably
I mean, like I'm trying to be positive here, but I guess the first feeling I had was, oh yeah, this is the same kind of thing they talked about around doing a handheld to optimize version for handhelds, like a version of Windows that was optimized for handhelds. And then when that came out, it was like, yeah, okay. So like, I'm sure they do have every intention to be like, oh, you know what? We want to win back your trust. We got some ideas. I think we could fix this. But what's going to actually come to fruition?
We've seen this before, right? We've had this song and dance before when Windows XP was besotted with viruses and malware. They pulled everybody off of Longhorn.
What was that word?
Besotted?
Besotted?
Besotted.
Besotted?
I don't think it's right, actually.
Besotted.
About it more.
Yeah.
When it's overloaded, overrun with bad software, and there's worms spreading across the internet willy-nilly, and it's like beginning to impact the global economy, they pulled everybody off of the next version of the OS, and they released Service Pack 2, which was a really good update, and people have loved Windows XP for 20 years as a result. When they released Windows 8, and we're like, hey, we know that there's only like 8 tablets on the market, but we're going to completely redesign our UI for touch interfaces that no one has and no one wants. And then
they were skating where the puck is going.
Yeah, they were looking toward the future.
I mean, the iPad was big.
Look, we all get iPad fever occasionally. It happens. But then they came back.
Check with your doctor.
No, nobody's ever. It's really not a thing. But then they released Windows 8.1, which let's not talk about that so much. But Windows 10. Nobody liked it at the time, but it was pretty good. When they released Vista, and it was terrible, and didn't run on any hardware. It was slow, it was janky, it didn't have any of the new features that people wanted. Then they updated it to Windows 7, and Windows 7, pretty okay.
So you think this is just part of the cycle? Every other one is always.
I think those were 3 different generations of Microsoft, and I don't think the current generation of Microsoft is going to recover from this.
Okay.
That's my take.
Wow. A nice history
what
lesson.
journey did you just take us on?
It's okay. They always right the ship.
Yeah.
But not this time.
Not this time. No, because the thing is, it used to be that they hired the best and the brightest people to come in and work on Windows. And I do not feel like that is the case anymore.
Well, is that really a case that they're not hiring the best and the brightest? Or is it more that maybe they're trying to sample from the same like trough as what they're producing? Yeah, what I mean is like, how much are they forcing their own employees to like vibe code? Do you know what I mean?
I think that's the stated policy is that they said last year that all of the people working on all of their software are vibe coders now. And
I think they said over 50% of code inside.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I don't know if it's necessarily fair to blame the actual workers. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it could be that they're hiring more junior employees who don't have the experience that's needed, that don't have like the legacy knowledge that is like probably fundamentally important in an organization like that. That's possible. But I also wonder how much of this is them just trying to basically, what's the term, dog food?
I think they're absolutely, I think the vibes are rancid. I think you're right, Elena. I think that they laid off a whole bunch of people, thousands upon thousands of people in multiple divisions last year. And you know, you can vibe code your way past a few 10,000 people developers, but we see what the results look like, and it's not good.
Yeah, they laid off a lot of their testing department several years back, and in the last year they said, "Hey, we're going to use the Windows Insider program as kind of a counterbalance to that, get feedback from y'all." And then over the last year, they've largely dismantled the Windows Insider. It's still there, but all the big faces are gone. I think their problem is like multifaceted. I think that it sucks that all these systems are now starting to break, possibly because of the introduction of AI code mixed with lesser people having hands-on with this stuff. At the same time, they're trying to cram all this AI stuff into the system, which, because Windows is the world's default OS, like people see that, and that is like the face of like, I open my computer and now something's yelling at me to do something with AI. I was laid off because of AI last week. F you. And at the same time, they're trying to rush these out so much that the bugs have been atrocious for the past year. Every time there's a patch Tuesday, there are major issues. A whole lot of PCWorld's traffic last year is just, hey, guess what Microsoft did this time? Here's how to fix it. They're reliable. They were old faithful last year and start this year. So, well,
parentheses
the three
negative.
of those all jumbled up together, it's painful and it sucks.
Go ahead, Elena. Sorry.
I was going to say, so here's my take based on what Adam was saying earlier, right? Where Adam was basically saying like, can I trust them? I don't know if I can. I don't think you're wrong about that as the final feeling to have, but I do think that they mean it, that when they're saying that this is a problem for them, whether or not they'll address it in a meaningful way remains to be seen. And so I think you're right on that point. But I do think, given now that money is involved, right? We saw their stock drop, right? That is something that's going to get their attention when it comes to something like
Azure. That was Azure. That wasn't Windows.
Yeah. Sure, but what I'm saying is, Windows straddles a line between enterprise and consumer. right? And so it's not just that. I mean, if it was only consumer, then maybe they wouldn't actually care. But there are so many businesses that have Windows licenses. They cannot afford to have machines that aren't working properly. So I do think that there is some motivation for them to improve on this, because it's probably not even consumer complaints that are getting their attention. It is a combination of things not going well with, as you said, Azure, like having the markets respond to that. If they're also annoying a very reliable source of income, right? Those business licenses, education licenses for Windows, that's a problem for them. That means they're going to start having to like put out fires on multiple fronts. I mean, they are putting out fires on multiple fronts now. So I don't think it's the same thing as with the handheld stuff, because that's more like a side project. That's not necessarily a huge market yet. So I think that this is a problem for them. I just don't know how effectively they're going to be able to address it quickly because of all the layoffs, because of, how maybe they've been approaching, code updates and, push out of, patches.
Well, and where in the stack do they accept that this is an issue? Like I said, like does Satya Nadella come out and be like, hey, you know what? We understand. Your trust is an all-time low. Like, sure, maybe people on the ground level are like, guys, come on, but like how far up
the stock price is really bad, man. That hits everybody, especially Satya.
It hits everybody. And also the quote that Will read out loud earlier from Tom Warren's article over on The Verge, it was from the president of Windows and Devices. So it's decently high up in the organization.
But okay, so even if they hadn't released a whole bunch of buggy updates that drove a bunch of traffic to the website last year, and they hadn't jammed the OS full of AI stuff that consumers really don't want and doesn't work very well and is generally considered to be kind of crappy at best, the experience is atrocious. And this is a fundamental problem that Microsoft's always had, right? Is that they tried to get away from this for a while in like the mid 2000s until like probably post Windows 7, I guess. Windows 8 was when they stopped doing this. They build the same OS for you and for Elena and for every school in the country and for every Fortune 500 company and for my mom and for a 5-year-old, right? And they are increasingly not letting us control our experience, which is the thing that offends me, I think, more than any of this. So when they start doing things like making it difficult for me to do an install with a local account because that impacts their ability to sell into OneDrive, stuff like that. Yeah. Like that to me is the thing that Cory Doctorow has been yelling about for 25 years now, which is that if you don't control your OS, then you don't really own your computer. And like, to me, that's the final straw is, hey, if you're not going to let me if you're not going to let me make the computer work the way I want it to work, not the way you need it to work for the mass market, not the way you need to make it work for your corporate consumers,
or juice your Bing numbers.
Yeah, I don't care about your Bing numbers. I care about how fast my start menu loads, right? And those choices, the things like every time there's a major update, I get 12 windows I have to click through that are like, hey, here's a bunch of crap we've installed that you really don't want, and you're going to just immediately turn around and remove from the computer.
Are you sure you don't want to sign for Game Pass?
No, I'm good, man. Thanks. No, I don't need Game Pass. I don't need OneDrive. I have Office because
You sure?
No, I don't. And it just feels like they're completely disconnected from the product that has up until this point been a core part of their business and drives a lot of their growth on the other stuff, and they're messing it up at a really, really high level.
I agree. I can understand why they're doing that, to try to juice the other parts of their business from like a business perspective. But it feels like there used to be somebody in the room that would say, no, we've had an ad for Game Pass earlier this year. We're not running anything else. There's no editor there saying, no, stop it. That's kind of my feeling for all of those.
Like, look at the difference between the home screen for the PlayStation and the Switch and the Xbox. And like, I've worked in businesses that are funded by advertising almost my entire career. It's bad businesses. The fact that somebody at Microsoft is like, man, we got to make a console so we can get it on that ad market for the TV screen is like, boy, these people just fundamentally do not understand the ad market and the grim fortunes that come with that. And we're like, they make all these decisions based on, like, I know for a fact that the guy who's like, hey, look, we can make our Bing numbers go up if we make everybody's Windows searches also trigger a Bing search, right? That guy got promoted. He's probably in charge of like a division at Microsoft now. And like that one wasn't that impactful a bad decision. But downstream of that, each step down the slippery slope, which I understand, logical fallacy, whatever, makes the OS worse until eventually everybody hits their breaking point. And then they go buy Macs, or Adam installs Linux, or whatever the next step. Everybody's running Windows XP.
I think you go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Real quick. I don't know if it's necessarily just that the software is bad. I think there is a multitude of factors here, and one of them is the hardware thing, right? The killing of Windows 10, we got to stay for at least a year, sure. But a lot of people are aware of this. A lot of people had to buy new machines, not had to, but they decided to. Other people are doing the best they can with older hardware. That sort of thing is going to linger in the perception on top of everything else. So it is like multiple things. Because I think it was Brad who just said that Windows is basically the default operating system. And I think when something's the default, people tend to just stick with it even when it's awful for a really long time. But if you have enough other factors that add up, there is going to become a breaking point. And I think we're actually reached it now because there is this whole hardware side of things that also is really precipitating this frustration. It's like, okay, well, for example, you made me move to a new laptop. I didn't really want to buy one. And now it's not even working properly because I have all these bugs. Like that would tick me off. Like, especially if I put down like anywhere from 800 to 1200 for a decent new laptop that will last a while, that would really like make me upset. Sorry, Brad, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking back to Adam's comment earlier, and I find it really interesting tying it into the Xbox handheld experience or whatever they call it, because seeing them move so slow with the threat of Steam Deck specifically in these gaming handhelds, I don't have a lot of confidence that they can move swiftly with these much bigger myriad problems. And it's about to be a bigger problem for them than they think, because when the Steam machines launch, then you have a gaming PC that runs the vast majority of PC games. Not all of them, like Anti-Cheat still has issues with it, but a lot of them. And it's not running Windows whatsoever. And I absolutely am interested in buying one. And if they ever make it available for download, like for my DIY PC, I absolutely would try that out. And the fact that Valve has gotten to this point without Microsoft reacting yet, or seriously reacted, makes me very much question how quickly any turnarounds they can do.
Well, and I mean, we've heard on Backchatter too that there's been a lot more Mac OS adoption as well. Like I think, like Linux is obviously we know a lot of people who are trying out Linux, but I think the more mainstream people who probably have iPhones are just like, you know what, I'll get a Mac. It's probably more friendlier or easier for them to accept switching an OS versus Linux, which still has that stigma, even though it's gotten way better about being able to install or whatever. But like I think Mac OS is probably a safer bet.
And if it integrates with, if they have an iPhone already, if it integrates with that, then that's even more incentive.
And the last time they the last time they were in this situation, the last time they let Windows get so bad that people got annoyed enough that they switched to a different OS, it took them a decade to recover, right? Like, are they going to still, like, what is the future of Windows when seemingly no one at Microsoft cares about the user experience for the billion people who use Windows? A billion people use this, and it's just kind of on autopilot. They're vibe coding software for a billion people. It's asinine.
AI.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's why I'm saying there's probably internal struggles, because they're like, hey, on one hand, we hit 1 billion people. The numbers are growing. We're seeing this, be awesome. Like, it can't be that bad.
I have a friend who has been trying switching recently, and they posted on Blue Sky the other day. It's really annoying how frictionless Linux is when it's all working, obviously. Even Mac OS has so much bloat around the edges from decades of ecosystem building. This is just a computer OS. You turn it on, the taskbar only has computer stuff on it. It's like, you forget, this is the thing that like, my first week on Linux, we talked about this on the Dual Boot Diaries, but my first couple of weeks I was trying to make it work like Windows. I think you went through this phase too.
I'm still kind of on it, to tell you the truth.
but then you're like, oh right, I can just make this work however I want, right? Like it's there's a freedom that you are that we're not used to and we're not accustomed to having, that has made us soft and weak, and getting free of that is lovely. So yeah,
I mean,
Wow.
but
Will, tell us how you
it is the old standby though. I mean, at this point, it's I still use Windows
default
daily, and
the
it's
two
just
greatest words in the English language.
So, like, I'm still using it. It's not like I've completely written it off. I mean, I know there's plenty of people in chat who are like, nah, you know what? I'm all Linux all day, baby. But like,
the relevance is actually growing smaller, in my opinion, for most mainstream users who aren't using a PC to game. Because honestly, at this point, most people can get by pretty well just on a Chromebook. They don't really need to be able to install discrete apps anymore, because a lot of things are web-based anyway. A lot of it runs in the cloud anyway. So if you don't need a Windows machine, because honestly, that was like the biggest thing for most people, where they're like, oh, I have this one application that only runs in Windows, or, whatnot kind of thing. Well, most people don't have that now. Most people can run everything in a web browser, or, if it's a Chromebook, then they can also just use an Android app, to play Spotify, or I guess Deezer or something else.
we should see if Deezer works on Linux. Is there a native Deezer app?
Yeah, of course, Germany loves Deezer. My question for you all, for the group, and maybe this is for the audience in general, maybe it's a poll, but like, what was the last time Microsoft was like, hey, we got a new feature coming to Windows, that you didn't immediately cringe and like you just tense up and we're like, oh God. Like, I remember them talking about virtualizing the OS and making everything run more stably and pulling out different components. Like, we haven't had any of those big architectural changes that keep them on par with like immutable. The like OS 10 over the last decade has become almost an immutable OS, right? Like, both for good and bad. But like, you can't, it's really hard to mess up your core install of a Mac at this point, because of the way they've virtualized that OS and the way they've pulled all that stuff out.
In the comments, we got a couple people saying auto HDR was something they were interested in. I was holding out hope that some sort of handheld front end was going to be awesome. But
as a writer, but also when I think of myself as a PC user, it's primarily a gamer. The two for me would be auto HDR. Actually, like, they've made some big steps once they finally got that working right. It was huge, because that stuff was so broken for a while. But also, what's it called? Direct storage, the one that speeds up NVMe storage and stuff like that. Like, I was so thrilled at the sound of that, and then it wound up being like, oh, you already have a fast SSD. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, we don't need that. A little too little, too late. Starscream says DirectX 12.
So that was like 10 years ago at this point?
User 23165, great name. It says Windows Defender removed the need for antivirus. True.
So that was like 15 years ago. That was good. I do like that one.
Yeah.
We got.
Was it good before Windows 10? I feel like it wasn't until like the Windows 10 era where like Windows Defender, Windows Security, whatever the different incarnations of the name started getting really reliable.
I feel like maybe I feel like I stopped using third-party antivirus around the Windows 8 timeframe when it launched.
We're nerds. We could use Windows antivirus back in the day and know to run into like malware bytes every now and again,
that's
or
true.
click on smart.
Yeah.
Nerd.
Windows 10, it got good for normal people.
Okay.
Nerd.
Yeah, that's mostly what I'm thinking perspective of. Yeah. I think, okay, this is probably not going to win me any fans listening, for anyone who's listening. But honestly, the last time I got excited was when they said, and I want to caveat this, where I felt this way because at the time you could still install using a local account. My feelings are different now. But at the time when they said that, okay, if you log into a Windows 11 account with a Microsoft account, it will automatically enable device encryption. And I was like, hallelujah, this is actually one of those things that no one's going to care about, but is so important, because back then, before we had a bajillion leaks of everything, one of the most common ways for there to be like huge data leaks of like your social security number and your birth date and, all this like sensitive data was like some random worker who worked for a health insurance company or, something related to that, who lost their laptop, or it got stolen when they were, at a cafe and they weren't watching their work laptop. And I was like, finally, yes, this is good. Also, if like someone steals your laptop, this is good, because if you have your random financial documents on your desktop, people can immediately just like start prying into your private life. That was last time I was excited, and then they just made it worse. So I don't know if that feeling actually stayed for very long.
Dimmer in the chat has mine, which is the snipping tool.
Mikey's here.
Oh, Mikey.
Yeah.
Hey, Mikey.
Hey, Mikey.
Yeah, Windows Shift S. Man, that's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It's very
I actually
changer.
use that all the time.
Very
It
underrated.
is
Yeah.
literally number one. Like if you look at keyboard
Oh, the
shortcuts I use
screenshot?
often,
Yeah.
it's like copy, paste, and Windows Shift S.
It's got AI in it
Was
now,
it was
doesn't
it called
Nope, I don't
Greenshot
care.
back in the day? Greenshot was the app I used. I think it was called back in the day. There's a couple of really
Greenshot?
Well,
good
it
apps for that.
was the first time I used a OS 10 laptop, and somebody was like, "Oh yeah, you can just grab a screenshot by hitting Command Shift 3 or whatever." I was like, "Wait, what?" And it just grabs just the window. You don't have to crop it. What? Yeah, it's real good.
You know what? I will say what I've actually found to be really nice. I don't want to say fun, but really, really nice. In addition to having that Windows screenshot built in, is that a lot of browsers now will let you do Control Shift S to take a screenshot, and that means it doesn't necessarily automatically save the information. So if it's a little more sensitive or something that you don't want to have to like comb through your screenshots later to have to like delete, it gives you a little more control that and make it a little bit more, I guess, was it ephemeral,
Yeah.
so that you don't have to worry so much. Because I actually sometimes will go through my screenshots to be like, oh, I probably shouldn't have a screenshot of that just lying there. That has like my financial info on it.
Well, just
can grab
post that in
a
the chat.
Full screen page on
There you
Firefox
go.
with Control Shift S. I didn't know that. That's a hot tip, Elena.
Ooh, nice. All right. I mean, that's our weekly dunk of Windows talk. Yeah.
Is it, like if you had to judge which Windows this is, if we're looking back at historical bad Windowses, Windows Vista, Windows ME, Windows 8,
Ooh.
we're like where are we on with Windows 11? You think it's better or worse than Windows 8?
Didn't we have a rank before?
Yeah, but look, Willis, don't bring logic into
Hey, are we
this.
talking about 8 or 8.1?
8 I don't think 8.1 counts.
Well,
Okay, so we're specifically saying 8 before they fixed it.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and I think that's the difference. Like even though Windows 11 like launched, like we weren't super excited, it wasn't like horrendous.
It didn't
like
suck with
getting,
noise.
Yeah, it's getting worse over time. Where I feel like 8, everyone looked at it and they were like, "Huh?
Yeah,
it's going
this
to launch
is-
into full screen? Why would what?
Nobody wants
I
this.
have to tap a button to go to my desktop?
Stop trying to make Metro happen.
Yeah, and like even Vista, I think it was the same kind of. Or no, did Vista get worse over time? I don't know. Like
Vista didn't last long enough to be that
Yeah,
bad.
true.
They rushed out Windows 7 real fast.
so I feel like it's a little different.
Here's the thing, though. Like, I do feel like in general, there have definitely been operating systems that they launched that we didn't necessarily like the first incarnation of it. But when they actually buckled down and addressed the issues, we were more okay with it. So I don't know.
Final
If I would
Vista
say it's
was
like-
better than Launch Vista for sure.
Yeah, and even like Windows XP, right? To use your example from way earlier in the show, Windows XP when it first launched was okay, but it had some issues. I don't think it got really good until like Service Pack 2, was it? And then it was like rock solid. So I think they've always kind of had this issue. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that it will be forever in my memory as being crap, but right now, if I was to clock it somewhere between the worst operating systems that Microsoft has put out, I would probably put it below 8, but definitely still ahead of ME and Vista.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Brad.
I think between the way Windows 11 started booting people off with recent hardware, the whole center alignment thing by default, I hate, and how it keeps getting worse over time. I try to be a pretty optimistic guy, but at the moment, I'm kind of feeling like we're going to look back in 10 or 15 years and be like, Windows 10 was the last good one. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, I hope that's not the. Oh.
I don't remember one that got worse. I remember them coming out bad and then getting better over time.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
they've never. I mean, I guess you could argue that happened with Windows 10 too, probably. But this,
I couldn't copy and paste in Windows 10
what?
using keyboard shortcuts until like 2 years of updates later.
That's insane.
So it also got better over time.
Yeah, I just can't believe. I can't believe that. Like, I hope they turn it around.
Yeah.
I forgot who in the chat said, but like, out of the 1 billion people, who has Windows, do they actually like Windows, or do they tolerate Windows?
You'll note that they don't have one of those, hey, how do you feel about Windows pop-ups that comes up every once. They don't do those very often.
You mean Clippy comes out and
Like,
tells you, asks you?
Like a little feedback.
Hey, how are we doing?
Hey, give us feedback. Yeah. Call this bumper sticker. Yeah. Also, I forget that Mikey's a little sore about people giving him grief for BitLocker because he's the guy who created it.
Oh.
So, yeah. Don't be getting against BitLocker. You got the guy in the chat.
No,
or if you have complaints, Mikey's right there. Let him know.
I mean, he doesn't work at Microsoft anymore. So
no, I know. You can't do anything about it.
Anyway, you know what? There is something we can do about
questions.
I don't know what that. Well, we got to do something
Answer
before
questions.
that. Actually, before that, we're going to do something new.
Oh, there's a new. It's not on the thing though.
It's not on the thing, but watch. I'm going to do this. It's going to be fun. We don't have the audio yet. No.
Oh,
Okay.
No.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. So we talked about this a little bit last week, but we are introducing dynamic ads being inserted into the podcast, and we're having intentional breaks.
So this is an intentional break.
This is going to be intentional break. Well, watch this. Watch this. This is how it's going to go. For all you people who are watching live, you're really going to love this. Here we go. Oh wow, that was a really good chat about Windows. We're gonna get to questions right after these messages. All right, now let's get to questions.
I was gonna go to the bathroom.
No, not that long of a break. No,
what?
Yeah, it's
oh man.
No, yeah. So
not even a second.
No,
you gotta give it a beat, man.
That's all we need is a second.
That's
just
why you have a bottle. Will.
There you go. And then
No, you need like slightly more, I think, than that. It's a hard
I
slice.
watch the Fantasy Footballers podcast on YouTube, and they've actually been doing that for like the past year because they were having the same issue. They had to start doing segment breaks.
Yeah, I mean we've always had them, but like now I'm intentionally going to think to like be like, oh, okay, you know what? Let's put a little ad break in between the new stuff and the Q&A. So, enjoy that.
Also, while we're on the topic, I will say that Adam has been soliciting feedback about the ads on Discord. So if you have opinions, you can drop by our Discord server and just add your comment too. I think Willis started a thread for it.
Yes.
A dedicated thread for it.
Yeah, give us whatever feedback you want. Just so you know, they're not in place yet. We're just putting in the piping work to have it be ready when it is in place. Macworld Podcast did start theirs this week. So we're all of our podcasts are getting it. We're going really light. We're not trying to sit here and juice the numbers and overdo it. But if you have feedback that you would love for us to give to the higher ups, then please give that to me. We are collecting them. But we're not trying to make it too egregious. If anything, we're trying to have some fun with it. And also, guess what? If you watch this live, it's a nothing. You're not even going to see it.
Tune in every Tuesday.
Yeah. So tune in every Tuesday. There we go. Anyway, let's get to questions. If you have any questions right now, get them in the chat at the Full Nerd Network. That's the best way for us to see them because they highlight red for us. Hopefully, theoretically, cross your fingers. But if you're watching or listening to this later, that's okay. There's a link in the description to our fine Full Nerd Discord, and there is a channel in there called TFN Questions. TFN stands for The Full Nerd.
Wait, what?
Yeah, if you didn't know that.
Wow, I didn't know that.
TFN. So you put questions in there, and hopefully we'll read it on the show. There was a couple I was supposed to bring up in the last topic, but that's okay. We'll talk about it here. Bullet Head, I think it's their first time maybe they renamed themselves, but new friend of the show, Bullethead, asks, how much of the current negativity towards Windows is related to the general software trend of making absolutely terrible error reporting UX? I recently had a situation where Windows 11 update on my mini PC kept me from booting due to a driver verification issue, yada, yada, yada. Not to say that Linux and FreeBSD are much better, but I feel like they have a lower expectation of UX in general, unlike Windows, which is pretty much everywhere. So, yeah. You think that's part of the issue? I mean, we kind of already talked about this, but...
I think that, like, for me, often there's a good idea paired with a bad idea. It's like when they started putting the QR code on the blue screen page, but the amount of space that they have in the kernel for the images for the QR code was such that every single blue screen took you to the same, we're sorry you had a blue screen page, instead of like taking you to a page specific to the error that you had. Does that Remember that?
Oh yeah,
I do.
yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah. I was like, oh man, this is awesome. It's gonna take me right to my IRQ not found or not equal error. And then I was like, no, it's like, hey man, you had a blue screen. Here's some general advice about blue screens. And the advice was, consider calling the person who built your system for you. Call support.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think that user or error reporting is a big factor outside of the hardcore. I think for normal people, they just, if something breaks, it needs to figure itself out and fix it.
Yeah.
And there have been so many bugs being introduced recently that it kind of makes this into a problem.
I mean, like especially if there's a major one, that's one thing. Like a lot of times, maybe if my grandma, I always use an example, but if there's something that's not working,
grandma.
Actually, here we go. I have an actual problem she had. She likes to play Microsoft Solitaire.
Who doesn't?
Yes. And so she was like, hey, listen, every time I close out the program, the screen goes black.
That seems bad.
And then it comes back, just for a second or whatever.
She like full screen exclusive Solitaire?
We won't get into the details
okay.
of what it was, but like she didn't know what it was. It actually wasn't a problem because it just, she thought it was a problem. She was like, oh, it's going black, something's wrong, and then the screen would come back up and it would just work like normal. So it wasn't an actual problem. But if she were to hit something where it was like, hey, Adam, like I'm literally trying to power down the machine. I'm hitting the power button and it's not going to shut off like that. That's like a major thing.
Yeah.
So I think there's different variations of problems that you're willing to deal with. But yeah.
What I did many years back was get my grandma's entire community on Chromebooks. And I haven't fielded a tech support call other than I got a new printer. Can you help me set it up in years?
That is amazing. That was such forward thinking. Forward thinking.
I feel like generally there's been a decline in UX entirely in terms of, I think the transition for the Windows user not being the customer anymore had a dramatic negative impact on the user experience across the board.
Yeah. I would also just echo, I forget, I think it was what Adam said or Brad, that I don't really think that most people who are using Windows actually bother with error reporting. I think what they do typically is that they go, oh crap, this isn't working. If they're savvy enough, they'll start Googling around to see if they can figure out what the issue is. If they're not, that's when we start getting phone calls or text messages asking
the first thing
what the
to
problem
try
is.
is to turn it off and turn it back on again.
I mean,
That's
honestly,
that's
it's
I mean,
funny,
there's
but
that
that's
too. But
always
I think
the
most
thing.
people don't bother with it because I used to work in customer service. And so I think the saying is basically like for every piece of feedback you get, there's like hundreds of people potentially who just never bother to give you the same feedback because they just can't be bothered, or it's just, they don't think of it because they don't even, like, honestly, I wouldn't necessarily think for something like this that, oh, I should report this to Microsoft because they're such a large corporation. Are they really actually going to pay attention? Are they going to give a crap? Like, I think most people are thinking that way.
Also, I will note, sorry, going back to my grandma again, whenever this does not happen on a phone. Like if she ever has any phone questions, it's because she's like, oh, how do I do something? Not that something's broken. Yeah. So I feel like the experience on a phone is like the easiest, like, oh, it rarely breaks, or at least in a way that is going to.
Walled garden's good, it turns out.
Yeah, right. But yeah. So
I think the other unfortunate thing for Microsoft, partly of their own creation, it's partly a problem with their own creation, partly it's a problem with Google, is that the search density over the last couple of years with AI trash around stuff like, hey, your computer blue screened, or you have this particular blue screen error or something like that, that then takes you to some page that has AI slop, like here's how to troubleshoot your IRQ not equal error. And then at the end, it's like, hey, consider buying this piece of software that'll totally fix your problem, except that it won't. Probably is also maybe malware, who knows, is real. It has definitely impacted them. And partly that happens because Microsoft used to have this knowledge base thing that had troubleshooting for all the common errors. And then they stopped doing that about a decade and a half ago. And now there's been for a long time there were a bunch of blogs that came up, and we'd see them on like Tom's and PCWorld and a bunch of other places that had guides for that kind of stuff. And now the slop has just outrun the.
You hurt its feelings, man.
I don't care.
Quit calling it slop.
It doesn't have feelings. It's not. It doesn't think, Adam.
Man,
teaching computers to lie doesn't mean they're sentient. That's my
feelings.
next T-shirt.
Okay. No.
I mean, honestly, let's real talk it too. How much do we think of it as also a function of people somewhere in that hierarchy shrugging and going, someone on Reddit will answer the question for them.
Yeah, Stack Exchange is still there.
I mean, hey, but the weird thing is we accept that on Linux land.
I didn't pay anything for Linux.
I know, but like in Linux, we're always just like, oh, you know what? Like, let's go to the forums. Let's see how
yeah, but the forums have actionable good information.
Yeah, true.
There's not enough keyword density and malware to be worth building out a bunch of slop sites for.
Yeah, true.
For now.
Yeah, for now. Yeah, we'll see. We'll slop up the
Look,
Linux.
This is the golden age of Linux, baby. This is
the
prime of the Linux desktop right now.
There you go. There's another question from friend of the show, Brian. Building a new gaming-only 9800X3D rig, congratulations, in this market, and trying to pick an SSD. Have you seen any FPS or loading time benefits by using a Gen 5 drive versus Gen 3 or Gen 4?
No.
He stumbled upon a fun article that Gordon wrote about Gen 5 drives that he linked, which was funny. I totally forgot that Gordon wrote this. Gordon was very excited about Gen 5.
He was extremely excited.
I remember
about Gen 5.
we got that very first Gigabyte Aorus drive, which I still have, and he was so excited to get that in, load it up, test on it, and then he was just like, okay, well, it is fast, but it's not really in anything that I need.
Let me tell you, when my friends who are on Gen 3 SSDs and I'm playing Arc Raiders together, I load in a good half second, maybe a second faster than them.
Bigger bar better.
So that
or
means
shorter bar.
That means while they're still loading, I can be like, oh, we're on this map in this area, and they're like, oh, okay, got it. Was that worth extra money? No.
I mean,
probably not.
Okay, yeah. So
I still recommend Gen 3 drives if you're on a budget.
It turns out they're nice and they don't get super hot, and you don't need to have a bunch of external cooling for them.
Yeah.
I don't know about now. They might bring it back, but for a while there were actually not many left. Like most of the industry had moved on to Gen 4. There was actually not that much of a price difference when I checked before everything blew up last fall.
Yep. I will say, for a straightforward gaming rig, Gen 3 works. If you do any streaming or anything like that, the real benefits of PCIe 5 is when you're moving big ass files from place to place. So if you're capturing videos of your streams and doing your thing after that, then Gen 5 might be worthwhile.
Dude, I mean, listen though.
But even Gen 3 would still be good.
Well, yeah, us video people are moving around. Well, I guess I haven't lately, but the video people move around a lot of files, and we're not even using Gen 5. It's not even a benefit.
You use
for
external
us.
drives most of the time. You're using
but it's not just that. We in our internal stuff too. I feel like Gen 4 is the sweet spot. If you need to go Gen 3 to save some money, sure, but Gen 4 completely fine in my mind. I don't know what the chat's saying. Maybe they're all like, what?
Scribefix just said I used to have a tape with Frogger on it. So, we should just go back to cassette tapes.
Oh.
Or paper tapes. Why not?
Punch cards.
Yeah, baby.
Jinx.
Yeah. Again, I think this always boils down to what I think both Brad and I say, which is if you find a good price on it and you want to future-proof yourself, sure. Indulge yourself, go for it. But in terms of actual material benefit right now, no.
I also worry that the extra heat of the Gen 5 drives is going to shorten their life compared to the cooler drives. Like
some of those heat sinks are getting big these days, boy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's the other thing. Anyway, here's a question from MTK. Nope. I'm going to ask this one first. Pyrocumulus, friend of the show, asks, Valve is really good at just about everything. Okay. How is their Steam hardware survey so inaccurate? For example, every time I get surveyed, it fails to detect VR headsets. I've heard a lot of people be like, "Hey, they didn't source my AMD based system." It seems that they're intentionally not juicing the AMD numbers, yada yada. I feel like there are complaints around the Steam hardware survey. Why is it so inaccurate? I guess if that is the claim that it's inaccurate.
How do we know it's inaccurate is the thing.
I used to work in quality assurance, and we used to have sampling techniques. So if we could get a batch of these Sapphire whatever tubes going through, you would have to take, depending on what the quality level you need is. You would, you test 1 or out of every 10 or 1 out of every 50, that kind of thing. And that's really what this Valve, the Steam hardware survey is. It's just like a random sampling. If they wanted to be accurate, I think it would be great if you could opt into doing it on the 1st of the month every year, and we'd get every month and we'd get an actual one. But I would say, like, look at it through that lens. Like, I don't think there's any conspiracy theories. There's no nothing. They're just doing sampling to get the vibe check for what people are actually using.
Well, and no matter what, it's never going to be accurate because it is still opt-in. We also don't want it the other way where it's like it forced by default. That's the only way to get the most accurate number, and I don't think anybody's
no.
I mean, or I would not want to.
I am curious though, like why we are so guarded about that, but also like if you use a browser, it can actually fingerprint like your details to a degree.
Because it's harder to understand that.
It's very uneven how we approach all of this.
Humans are fallible, right? I mean, honestly, I don't care. Me personally, if it were forced, like I wouldn't care. But I know a lot of people would not like that. So
I think for me, the things you have to just be thoughtful about what you use that information for. Like I know a bunch of game developers do things like make their default, the settings for the default load and settings for their game based on whatever the fat part of the curve is on video card RAM and stuff like that. So like you're not going to ship a game that uses 16 gigs of video RAM out of the gate right now because you're going to the vast majority of the audience is going to have a bad time unless you're in.
I don't know. We got to do those testing.
I mean, no, that's video RAM, not RAM.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, we should test that too.
System RAM, 40% of people, 16 gigs.
Which I believe that. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
I think most people are not keeping as many tabs as some of us are.
I mean, look, that's a good way to save money on RAM. Just close some tabs.
Yeah.
Get that automatic tab closer.
Always be closing tabs.
Get that automatic tab closer extension and just, you have 30 minutes. What's the tabs?
Is that
it's an extension. Once the tab's been open for 30 minutes, boom, kill it. You reading the article? Doesn't matter. Kill it.
This is Elena's worst nightmare.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that on Elena's computer next time you're in. It's just gonna like all of a sudden it's gonna be like everything's
Let's put it this way. Well, if you get me fired because I can't remember the different things that I'm working on, you're gonna have to support me.
Just hit Command Shift T, Control Shift T over and over and over again, as fast as you can.
I think she.
I want to write that article real bad now. Just the headline: How to save money on RAM, and just the sentence: Close some tabs, you filthy animal.
Yeah. Too many tabs.
Imagine if we did a video.
What if
here's a really good tutorial.
Actually, can we do it as a short?
Yeah.
I
mean, honestly, though, it's kind of real. It's actually very like real
bad
advice
RAM tips?
because I mean, for real though, like I have an older Chromebook and it doesn't have a bunch of RAM on it, but the way it works is that I just have a couple of tabs open and I know that's my maximum and I just deal with it.
We could literally bang out like 5 of these that are terrible tips for saving RAM in this difficult time.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, how many tabs do you have open?
That's hilarious.
No, you need 2. That's the most.
Yeah. Okay.
Tabs were a mistake, guys.
Yeah, there you go. Friend of the show, Lewis Law asks, any comment on the Android OS Aluminium replacing Chrome OS?
I have feelings. I don't know if they're necessarily informed because we don't really know much about Aluminum OS right now. There was a preliminary so-called leak that happened last week that was going around in the news cycle, but we don't know how it handles. We don't know how well it integrates, the two sides of it, right? The Android side and what is now the Chrome OS side. I'm nervous. I always think that when you make things more complex, that's when things can get crappier. And one of the things I really like about Chrome OS is how lightweight and simple and just no fuss it is. Right. There's a reason why Brad was looking forward and put everybody in his grandma's retirement community basically on Chrome OS because it's just so straightforward. You start introducing like more complexity. And to be fair, yes, it does have, support for Android apps. And so maybe it won't be as bad as I'm worried about. But I'm still worried.
I have thoughts and feelings as well.
Yeah.
Have any of y'all ever used Android on a laptop? or like a tablet with the keyboard?
I did back in the old days, but not recently.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Yes.
Have you guys ever tried using the Android apps like through the Windows layer or in Chromebooks?
That seems bad.
Yes.
It freaking sucks. Yeah. So I'm not very interested in an Android-based laptop. We're gonna have to see what they do. I like Chrome OS, so I'm a skeptic coming in. They're gonna have to win me over.
I'm very nervous about it. I also am very concerned about the fate of Chrome OS Flex, because that has been such a boon for keeping older hardware alive, especially if it's supported. And I've been fortunate to have a lot of laptops kind of cross my desk, so to speak, that have been able to support it pretty well. And again, just even a 10-year-old Haswell laptop, it feels so good using Chrome OS Flex. And like I was saying, most people don't really need more than a web browser these days. So you can repurpose it.
Yeah.
Hand it off.
That's all you deserve.
Well, no, with a laptop like that, you can put as much RAM as you want in there. You can source it for cheap, or used to be able to source it for cheap on eBay.
Really?
So you could kit that out with 16 gigs of RAM, which is way overkill for a Chrome OS. You just hand it off to someone who only needs to check, email or their bank statement or whatever occasionally, and don't like a tiny screen. Because I do think that's a real thing for people with maybe vision problems or just older. Looking at a small screen on their phone is really hard for them to see all the information. So it is still nice for them to have a larger monitor and even a desktop experience, because also some websites don't load well on mobile and they don't have a good app. So yeah,
I really want to try. I want to take a look at this FydeOS thing, FYDE.
Oh yeah,
which is billed as a Chrome OS, an open alternative to Chrome OS.
But it doesn't have Google services, right?
Yeah.
You can do it with or without Google services. Okay. And people use it for everything from kiosk and signage to a lightweight, the same kind of stuff you'd use with Chrome OS. Yes, hi.
Can you send me that? I'm definitely interested in playing with that.
Yeah. I would, this is
the Chrome OS Diaries.
Yeah, welcome to our.
No, seriously, I honestly think that would be my entry into this more so than full fat.
You
Linux,
say that,
honestly,
but you just get into that full fat Linux, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're popping up cats in your terminal, and
I love cats.
Yeah.
Anyway, a couple more questions, then we get out of here. Friend of the show, Generative Sneaky asks, "Do we really need an OS to run a game? What if we don't? How much of a bottleneck will we have shaved?"
You mean just run the OS on bare metal like it's the 90s again?
I don't know. Do we really need an OS to run a game?
Well, okay,
yes.
So yeah, the reason you do that is because in the old days, Brad was there, he knows, it was bad.
It's bad.
Yeah, because what would happen is you'd buy a new video card and then you'd be like, oh crap, none of the games I have run on this video card, because it uses its own proprietary API to interface with the hardware. And then you have to get the special version of MechWarrior 2 for your Rage Pro card and your Rendition Verite and your number 9 and your Matrox card and your 3DFX card, and they all look a little bit different, and none of them work with each other right, and your saves are incompatible always. And
then you got to get the 2D card too.
Yeah, it was bad. And then you get a new sound card, and you got to get new TSR. I mean, this was even running on top of DOS, to be clear. This wasn't even running bare metal. But you don't want people to have to make games directly for the hardware that you have, because then it just doesn't work. There's no nothing would ever work.
But what
again.
if?
But what
it was bad?
It would be slightly faster. You'd have a little bit less overhead. You'd need less RAM. Maybe this is another good tip. Hey, what if instead of making Call of Duty for Windows, what if we made Call of Duty for AMD and Intel with AMD and Intel and NVIDIA GPU SKUs? And then we also have different ones for the different audio hardware that we have. And then
what if
also you have to have USB, different ones for different mice and keyboards and different keyboard layouts? It'd be great.
Oh gosh. I'm having a flashback. I did not. Having to call all those things up. Yep. Oh no.
Just put a different SSD in when you want to play a different game. That's easy, right?
Whenever people complain about DirectX, I'm like, you did not live through the pre-DirectX days.
No, DirectX is great. It's a miracle technology.
Is this really just a question from somebody who is very, very, very nostalgic for DOS?
I mean, I think there's a perception that people think that consoles are running directly on the metal, and I don't think that that's really the way they work in the modern era. and haven't for quite a long time. I mean, there's an OS on consoles at this point with APIs that people program to. It makes making the games easier. And yeah, you do, anytime you use an abstraction layer, you lose, a little bit of the efficiency that you get running code that's written, like assembly level code, as evidenced in like Quake is the perfect example of this, right? Like the software renderer for Quake was written in machine code, and it's like a legit miracle of software design, right? It's really, really amazing. It ran at 40 frames a second or 30 frames a second at like 320 by 200. And it was rendering a full 3D world and through these BSP trees. It was really cool. But we don't want that.
I have a solution.
What's your answer?
What if all you needed to run on the bare metal
was
GeForce Now?
So anyway, our next question is,
there we go. GeForce Now Bare Metal Edition.
Bare Metal Edition.
Okay, anyway.
We can test it on 16-core Ryzen with Vcache on each chip.
Yeah, there you go. Boom. Got him. All right, last question, and I don't understand this one, so I'm going to put this out here. You'll have to tell me.
Great that you're asking questions you don't understand.
I don't, yeah. Friend of the show, Mosty running at Stockish. What is Adam's favorite coworker scented thermal paste?
Oh no.
That sounds like an HR violation.
This is because
I
you
advise you against answering that.
I think this is going back.
Obviously, it's Will.
This is going back to last episode, right? Because Adam was sniffing. Will, don't do that.
For audio listeners,
HR.
Will's eyebrows are dancing quite considerably right now.
I need an adult.
So is
is
the question if I had a scented thermal paste that smelled like one of my coworkers, what would it be?
That's the way I took it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't answer that.
Okay. Anyway, that's your Fix the PC talk here on the Full Nerd. To subscribe to us, or actually, you know what? First off, if you want to catch us live, then subscribe over on the Full Nerd Network on YouTube. The Full Nerd Network on YouTube.
Tuesday.
Every Tuesday, live around 11 a.m. Pacific-ish. We go live. You can hang out with us. You get to see, you get access to the pre-show where usually we talk about food, but sometimes it's random other things.
Sometimes we make hand gestures that don't translate well into the audio version of the podcast.
Yeah, you never know. Exactly, yeah. Or if you want to watch back later, the video version is over there. Also, like as we've been talking about podcast stuff, like I have battled, and I would love feedback. This is separate from the ad stuff, but is anyone interested in the video version in a podcast feed? I know you can do that like in Spotify, like there's a video, like you can have a separate feed just for the video version. I never watch it, so I don't know.
I got YouTube for that, but
Yeah,
let us know if you use that.
Yeah, if somebody wants it, let me know, I guess. Not that
That's the
we
thing we
can't.
can do.
Somebody just said yes, please, with 3 exclamation marks.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
They love video feeds.
I mean, I guess because then you can download it locally and
Put it on your
watch it
Tesla while
whenever
you're driving to
That's-
work.
no,
man.
don't do that. That's a bad
there
idea.
you go. Okay, yeah.
No
I don't
screens
know.
while driving.
Anyway,
please.
maybe we'll get into it. But yeah, if you want to just listen to us, just into your ears, then you can look for the RSS feed that points to pretty much every service on the planet that matters, including Deezer, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, whatever. We are there. I appreciate that. Also, I appreciate everyone who hangs out in our awesome Discord. There's a link in the description to hit over there and hang out. Not to mention, we also have a full nerd newsletter. Brad, it is check-in time. Do we have a new URL?
Not yet.
Okay, every week I'm going to ask you at this point. Last week
I understand, and I accept this responsibility.
Last week we actually did talk about should we just like make a tiny URL? Like should we like do a pirate URL forwarding?
Couldn't hurt.
Yeah, maybe.
Wow.
We'll see. Or
Maybe. I'll see. I'll get it. I'll try to get it figured out by next week.
Hey, what's that URL again?
It is PCWorld.com/newsletters with an S /sign up. There is a list of PC World's fine newsletters that you can sign up for, but specifically we're talking about the Full Nerd newsletter written weekly by one Eleni Yee.
That's me.
I really wonder every day what it would be like to have an audio version of that newsletter.
I know, right? Then you wouldn't have to worry about PCWorld.com/newsletters
I could just
/sign up.
Wherever good podcasts are found.
Yeah. PC World.
So it's important that we have the numbers for the written newsletter, though.
Well, we get both. We get both.
A quick question, Elena. After you written it, have you ever done a read? Just a read through, just to see how long it is.
Have you ever just thought about reading it out loud?
So actually, technically, this is a trick that I think a lot of writers, or at least a decent portion of writers, use. I will actually read my drafts out loud because to me, writing is not just about words on a page; it's about how it flows. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes what your eyes can scan through isn't always as harmonious as what it sounds like. So I like to capture both. So sometimes I'll read things out loud to myself to see how it's sounding, and I might adjust the wording or change the flow a bit based on that. So technically the answer is yes.
So you're already reading it.
So just hit the record button.
Yeah, just hit the record button, send it over, we'll edit it up. Boom.
You have a microphone.
Done. You're literally already doing it.
Sentence fragment. Oh, that sounds like ass. Bleep.
Wow. It's okay. You know what? We can beep that in post. Send that over too.
Yeah. I made it tinyurl.com/TFN newsletter.
Newsletter.
My man. Thank you, Will.
tinyurl.com /TFN newsletter.
Now, I'm going to be honest. I thought about making the short URL comically long, but I decided not to.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it's a Rickroll.
I will say, while you're there, if you're signing up for the newsletter, also sign up for any of the others. Like, I really love, in particular, my coworker Dominic Bailey's Try This, because he always has these like really cool, like not things I always even think about, tips that he shares. Is it twice a week, Brad?
3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Oh, that's right. We expanded to 3, or he expanded to 3. So yeah, they're great.
Nice. All right. Nice. Well, yeah. That's enough newsletter talk. Let's get out of here.
It feels like the full Nerd Network cinematic universe. That just took like 7 minutes to describe all of this stuff.
I know, right? Well, and then we didn't even talk about the Dual Blue Diaries, where 2 longtime Windows users learn to use Linux daily. Yeah. And a new upcoming handheld podcast that I'm starting with Russ from Retro Gamecore. Hey. Spoilers, we recorded episode 0 last week. So we're close.
In the desert?
You'll have to tune in to see. Alex is actually here in the office cutting the trailer for the podcast. Things are moving. The graphic is pretty much done. We'll see. So yeah, so look for that. Yes, the full Nerd Network is expanding. We got a last minute $5 Canadian super chat from Skeet Sayer. Asks, what do you think of Steam potentially being banned in the UK? I hadn't heard about that.
This is about pricing stuff, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's not good. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Look,
I also don't like.
I think it'll get sorted. I can't imagine that Steam would want to risk losing that revenue.
Sorted or sorted?
Sorted?
You think there's
sorted?
Well, we say sorted out. They say just sorted. Ew. So that was a minor, mild, tiny little call out to the UK.
All right. But we got to get out of here. So thank you, co-host Brad Charkis, for showing up again this week.
Thank you for showing up again this week, Adam. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, me too. Wouldn't it be funny if I didn't show up?
Just had an empty chair here and talking to you like Clint Eastwood?
That's weird. Where did Adam go? Huh. All right.
Everyone just pauses while Adam does his normal bits.
Yeah, that would be funny.
Some completely unlisted segues.
Exactly. Yeah. Elena, thank you for hanging out. It's a good time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just hit that record button. Thank you, Will, for hanging out.
Hey, thank you.
Wearing your shirt. Hopefully, you wear this all the time now. Hopefully, you wash it.
Yeah, I have multiples.
Okay. Oh, you do? Wow.
Look, when you make the shirt, you can get as many as you want. You have to pay for them still.
But, yeah. Does your whole family just wear them around the house?
No, but my daughter asked for one. This is the first time I've ever made something. My daughter was like, hey, I really like that Microsoft shirt, Dad.
Does she know what it means?
Oh, yeah. She hates AI more than anybody I know.
Okay.
Does
she hate Microsoft?
Let me tell you, the kids don't like the AI slop.
Really?
No,
don't
they are.
I love that.
Feelings.
It doesn't have feelings. It's not a real thing. Yeah, the kids are all right. The kids don't like the slop.
All right.
Cool. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Willis, for controlling verticals and horizontals. Get us out of here.
Alrighty. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. It's time for lunch, and I think it's time for some KFC, which, if you missed the pre-show, it's actually Korean fried chicken. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Propaganda. Willis hates Kentucky.